So good day, friends. This is Dr. Bob Hamilton, and you have tuned in today to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. First of all, before we get going today, I want to say thank you for making time in your life to listen into this podcast. It means a lot to me. I spend a lot of time preparing for it and a lot of time finding the right people. And today we found an amazingly interesting person to talk to. But I know you're all busy people and you're doing what parents do and grandparents do, which is you're shuttling around kids everywhere, trying to pay your bills. And the fact that you tuned in today means a lot to me. So thank you for being here. If you like what you hear, pass it on to your friends and family. I'm trying my best to build an audience because not for me, but for the wonderful people I bring on the show. So with that being said, it's a pleasure today to welcome on my podcast a author. By the way, he's now a best-selling New York Times author. He wrote a book called Open Borders about the border. We're not going to talk about that today, but we are going to talk about another book he wrote, which is entitled Selfish Reasons to Have More Kids. His subtitle is Why Being a Great Parent is Less Work and More Fun Than You Think. Dr. Bryan Caplan. He's also a professor of economics at George Mason University. He's a blogger. The name of his blog is Bet on It blog. He has 4 kids. And Dr. Caplan, it's a pleasure to have you today on the Hamilton Review.
Great being here, Dr. Bob.
And great seeing you here on the camera. So listen, we are going to get going here, but before we start talking about your book and some of your thoughts here, I'd like to have my guests introduce themselves, a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you're doing, why you're an economics professor, and ultimately why you ended up writing this book. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. Bryan, you're up.
I was born in Southern California, right where you are podcasting from, Northridge, California. I grew up there for my entire childhood, went to UC Berkeley for undergraduate. And after that, I've been on the East Coast ever since. I got my PhD at Princeton, and I've been a professor at George Mason now for 28 years.
Wow.
After finishing that PhD, I've had 4 kids who are the light of my life. I've written a lot of books. I'm the kind of person who writes a book to get something off his chest. When I see something in the world that I'll see, especially if smart people are saying things that I think are wrong, that's highly motivating to me. I don't write books that on topics where I have normal views. I do have some normal views. I think that the world is round, but I'm never going to write a book about how the world is round. I write books on the most controversial subjects that I can find, ones where I feel like if I don't write the book, no one will. And that is why I wrote the book that we're talking about today, Selfish Reasons to Have More Kids, Why Being a Great Parent is Less Work and More Fun Than You Think. I wrote this book because I saw parents around me killing themselves in order to take care of their kids. And yet I had read a lot of research saying that the actual fruit of their suffering was really quite slight. And furthermore, I saw that these very parents who were killing themselves very much didn't want to have more than 1 or 2 kids because they were making it such a chore.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think that some people take it like they look at parenthood as if they're going to college. It's like Parenthood 101. It's not that.
Well,
It's
actually, that would be a big improvement because most college students barely do any work these days. That I have another book on that. In fact, I would say that if people took parenting about as serious as they take college, that would be about right, because it would mean that people are just doing the basic stuff just to get through. And it's like a lot of my thesis is that obviously kids need food and love and a roof over their heads, but the sort of laborious self-torturing that parents do, not only is it not necessary, there's very little evidence that actually even has any long-run benefit for the kids. So what's the point?
Yeah. No, we're going to get to that in a second here. I do think, in the world we live in, people are very, very serious about parenthood. And mean, historically, people just had children. They
Mhm.
weren't, you couldn't plan children. They kind of just came to you. If you were married and having
Mhm.
normal relationships with your wife, your kids kind of happen naturally, right? And so you typically had a ton of them. There were lots of kids that came because you had no control over it per se, not completely,
Mhm.
but of course, lots of. I mean, historically, large families were kind of the norm, not so much the exception as they are today.
Yeah. Large
Um,
numbers of births, but large families much less so because so many kids died in the old days.
that's exactly true. There was the infant mortality in 19 even the 19th century was horrific. I don't have the numbers, but
Mhm.
it was really, really common for kids. Certainly, I think you have a graph here actually showing that the deaths of children under 1 year of age was actually quite high, even into the
Yeah.
recent years. I'm trying to find it real quickly, but I can't find it. But anyway, the reality is that a lot of kids did pass in the past from disease and accidents and different things. So people are working too hard. What do you mean by this? Okay, kind of talk through us. What do you mean by people are beating themselves against their head against the wall? What kind of areas is that happening in?
All right. Well, of course, it starts just during pregnancy where there's people doing things like playing Mozart and reading to kids. And yeah, of course, that doesn't do anything. Then once kids are born, there is this hyper parenting where you're watching them and trying to go and start enriching them from early ages. Once they get a bit older, then there's enrolling them in a whole bunch of activities. Pretty soon, there are plenty of parents paying tens of thousands of dollars a year to send their kids to special schools. And on top of all this, once the kids in previous societies, or like even in the 80s, would have considered plenty old enough to just walk over to their friend's house, these days, a lot of parents are not comfortable with that anymore.
Yeah,
Even crazier, actually, there are a lot of parents that are not comfortable letting their own parents watch their own grandkids. It's like, oh no, you can't. Yeah, sure, I survived, but you're not qualified, or well, they don't really say it, but I mean, but I do know plenty of parents who have grandparents or their grandparents totally want to help, and they're not allowed to help. Like,
yeah,
how
yeah.
crazy is
No, I know
that?
what you're talking about, man. And you're talking about grandparents who are mentally with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they're fine, but like it's
Yeah,
like, well, but you know, I mean, so like one great example. So I actually got to debate Tiger Mom Amy Chua, who wrote Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother, and there's a
yep.
part of that book where she said she never let her husband's parents have a single full day with their granddaughters because she thought they were hippies and were going to mess her kids up. Even though these parents were the parents of Amy Chua's husband, who, like her, was a law professor at Yale. So what is she talking about?
Uh, yeah, no, that doesn't make it. I mean, if you can actually make that much of a difference in 1 day,
Mhm.
uh, God bless them. I mean, that's amazing. I don't know of any, any ability. I certainly don't have the ability to influence that kind of lifestyle change in 1 day of being with me. I don't think. I wish I
Yeah.
had that power.
One wrong word, one joke about smoking marijuana in the '60s, and your kids will be potheads. Apparently,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, so going back, okay, so let me ask a couple questions. You said that, parents are playing Mozart to their unborn child. They're kind of putting a microphone on their tummy and they're playing. Listen, I happen to like Mozart myself, but
me
I
too.
but
He's
that,
great.
but there's no evidence that these kids hearing Mozart all the time become
Mhm.
pianists or play the violin. Is that correct?
So the famous study of the Mozart effect wasn't even of babies; it was of college students. So how this legend began that babies can hear music in the womb, like it's one of the most amazing urban legends that has ever sprung. I mean, the study of the college students was totally debunked, but even if it was true, it's like fine, college students can benefit from Mozart. Doesn't show unborn babies can.
Yeah. So, I mean, the babies can hear your voice. I mean, you know that there is a certain amount of hearing the babies have, and they do tend to know their mother's voice. That's been my observation, and I think it's true too that they kind of turn to the mothers
Mhm.
and know their mothers. But I don't think that there has been no evidence that to show, to my knowledge anyway, and
Mhm.
this is my business, that playing Mozart has made a difference in the musical abilities of children later on in their life,
Yeah,
right?
of course, there's a lot of evidence that musicality runs in families, but one of the main things that I talk about in my book is that genetics is greatly underrated. And there's a lot of evidence that all sorts of talents actually are passed genetically rather than environmentally. And so, if a great composer were to go and give his babies up for adoption, their propensity to become great musicians would still be highly elevated.
Yeah. No, that's one of your themes of this book. And I
Mhm.
have to say, and the issue of nurture versus nature. Um, explain, I think people understand that, but in your words,
Mhm.
how would you talk about nurture and
Mhm.
nature?
Well, just to back up, I would say, look, everybody believes that physical traits get transmitted biologically. So, or transmitted genetically. So, if you see there's a parent with a big nose and a kid with a big nose, nobody thinks that the parents are raising their kids to be big noses, right? That's something where you have a strong sense if that kid were put up for adoption, he would have the same face. All right. But there's also this idea of, well, psychological traits are totally different. It's like, well, why are you so confident that psychological traits are totally different from physical traits? But then you may ask, well, how would we even know? There is this timeless problem which has bedeviled discussions of nature and nurture for thousands of years, which is that in a typical family, you seamlessly blend genetic similarity with environmental similarity, which means that there is really a big question: why is anything happening? It's hard to say. But starting in the 1960s, there were a lot of researchers who realized, wait a second, why don't we stop studying the normal families and study the abnormal families? What are abnormal families? Well, most obviously, why don't we study kids that are adopted and compare them to biological offspring? So that's one way that you could go and sort out nature versus nurture and say, well, look, the similarity between adopted kids and the adopting parents, that can't be due to genetics. So in that case, if we see a similarity, that's going to be a strong sign that it's actually transmitted through upbringing. On the other
Yeah,
hand, if you see that adoptees resemble their adopting parents a lot less than biological kids, that will be a sign of genetic influence. And the other method that people realize they could use is say, well, wait a second, we've got two kinds of twins. We got identical twins who share all of their genes, and we got fraternal twins who only share half, just like normal siblings. So we see that identical twins are more similar to each other than fraternal twins. Again, that is another sign of genetic influence. And by the power of math, once you go and measure how important genes are, you can actually work through how much room is left for upbringing to matter. So this kind of research started in the 60s. It's totally open as to what it would find, but
yeah,
what it has in fact found is that, especially in the long run, nature just crushes nurture. And people just have a lot of illusions about the power of nurture. A lot of the mistake is probably because nurture does have big short run effects, which fade out, creating the illusion that parents matter a lot more than they do. The analogy that I like is we think about kids as being like soft clay that we squeeze and mold, and then they stay that way forever. And the better analogy is that kids are more like plastic, where you can depress the soft plastic. You can depress the plastic, you can change it in the short run, but when you release the pressure, then it pops back to its original shape.
yeah.
Now, that,
You
of course,
talk,
is a simplification, and I'm happy to talk about the details.
yeah, I want you to talk about the details. I mean, you're kind of
Mhm.
refuting the Jesuits have this little saying
Oh,
that
yeah.
if you give me, go ahead and I'll let you quote it because I'll quote it wrong.
Yeah. So give me the child at 7, and I will answer for his opinions in adulthood, roughly. Not sure
Yeah,
if it was Ignatius Loyola or somebody else, but yes, that is the common Jesuit view.
yeah,
And there's some sense in which they are correct. Namely, two of the things that are most subject to strong parental influence are what religion you say you belong to and what political party you say you belong to. What's important to understand is that these are what we can think of as the lip service measures. What religion do you say you belong to? What party you
yeah,
say what party you say you belong to? And if all and if you think that eternal salvation just rests upon a person saying I'm a Zoroastrian, all right, great. But if you care about deeper measures of religiosity, deeper measures of your political views, then you want to look at other things like, do you actually go to church? Do you actually follow the rules of religion? Do you even know what the rules of the religion are? Do you know what the doctrines are? Similarly, for political opinions, do you actually go and hold the political opinions that the party endorses? Do you actually vote for that party reliably? Do you bother to vote at all? So, what we see in twin adoption studies of religiosity and politics is that while there's a large parental influence on the lip service measures, what religion do you say you belong to, what party you say you belong to, there is very little effect of parental upbringing upon your adult religious or political views or participation or interest. So that's what we really see. And again, if this seems really hard to believe, and I know a lot of people are just like, no way, it can't be true. Here's
Yeah.
what I would say. Look, can you believe that personality has a genetic component? This is one. Yeah, I know
Why
you got.
are
I know
you
you got
asking
six
me?
kids, Bob. Have you noticed that all six of your kids show exactly the same personalities from an early age?
No,
I'm taking that laughter as a no, right?
they're radically different people.
Right. And it wasn't because you said, okay, kid number one, you're the extrovert. Kid number two, you're the introvert. Kid number three, you're medium, right? That you never did that, I assume.
No,
No.
no,
So, and
I
again, it's
did
like,
not
well,
do that.
like how can genetics explain that? Because they only share 50% of their genes. That's why. So kids do not actually, so individual siblings don't share all their genes. They only share half. So it's totally unsurprising that they would genetically have different personalities. So once you can accept that there is a big genetic effect on temperaments, on personality, then you can ask yourself, well, what kind of a thing is religiosity or curiosity about religion? See, it's a personality trait. It's similar to extroversion or agreeableness or conscientiousness. And once you can accept that, which I think really makes a lot of sense, then the idea that there is a big effect of genetics on religiosity makes perfect sense.
Yeah, in terms of you're talking about the practice of religiosity, because
Yes.
you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no question that if you grow up in a Catholic family, you will say, I'm a Catholic. But
Yes.
how often do they actually, that sense of
Yes.
inter inter engagement
Yeah. I mean,
with
there's the kid that
the,
wants to be a priest from an early age, and then there's the person who's like, "What are you crazy? No, I don't want to be a priest." And these are things that it's pretty close. So I'd say to say, can you see them deep from within? This person was always very religious. They just love this stuff, or this person just bristled at religion. Did you see the original Omen?
I'm sorry.
Did you see the original version of the Omen, Damien?
No, I did not. I
Yes.
did
Well,
not.
there's this great scene where the turns out he's the son of Satan, but they try taking this 5-year-old to church and he goes crazy. It's a hilarious scene. It's like, okay, we're not taking to church anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if the son of Satan probably went do too good in church.
Yep.
You talk about okay, so that's nature and nurture.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that this kind of depressed me a little bit in terms
Mm-hmm.
of you actually you elucidate or you write about 7 wishes that parents
Mm-hmm.
have for their children. Let me read them off to you. Their health,
Mm-hmm.
intelligence, happiness, success, character values, and appreciation, which I think you
Mm-hmm.
mean like gratitude.
Yeah. And then
Um,
just sort of the relationship between parent and child.
And
But the
so
quality, yeah.
all of these different criterion that you put down and you talk about them and you kind of go, you know what? Listen, there's kind of no relationship between how you teach your children about these different things
Mhm.
and their actual how that affects them.
Or how they
Can you
turn out. So, yeah,
I,
so
I
how they
looked
are
at
as adults, like, is the best way of thinking about
right,
it.
exactly how
Again,
they are.
with
So
certain exceptions. And yeah, so I am a professor, so I like exceptions. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to go and say the world is always exactly one way. I'm here to
yeah,
try to describe it just as it is, as best as I can.
yeah. You're a truth seeker, which I like. So, I
Try.
mean, these 7 things, when I read these, I go, yeah, I want health for my child. I want my kids to manifest. I want them to be intelligent, obviously. I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful, people of character and virtue and values, and I want them to be people who appreciate life and appreciate the goodness that they have in life. So these are things which I'm completely all about, and I kind of like you talk about how much we nag our kids or you
Hmm.
brainwash them, however you want to.
Hmm.
You use different words in your writing here. Tell us about this because this I found this to be a little bit sobering.
Hmm. Right. So that is exactly the opposite of what I'm going for. What I'm really going for is telling people your kids are going to probably turn out well regardless of what you do, as long as you don't do anything crazy. So it's not because you tried really hard, it's because you've got genes that are okay and your wife's got genes that are okay, and put that together and your kids are going to turn out all right.
So
Um,
what are crazy things that people do to make it not
so
right?
let me go this way. So like things that you so like I mean, obviously there's like locking your kid in a closet and never speaking to them, and that's just not in the data, but there's no doubt what that will do. It will turn to create a person who can't speak or understand other people. So there are crazy things that just hardly get observed, which we know what they'll do because that's like we've got we know about what's happened in the extreme cases. Like something much milder, but it's like, how about teaching your kid a foreign language? Right. So one thing that we've seen is that even if the parents fluently speak a foreign language in front of their kids and to also use it with the kids, for most languages, actually, the kid will grow up not being good at that language. If you in order to go and actually get your kid to speak that language, you've got to do something extreme, like say, in our home, we only speak Korean,
Yeah.
right? Or you could do something even more extreme, which is move your kid to Korea for 5 years during their teenagers, and that will be enough, right? If you really want your kid to be an ultra Orthodox Jew, move to a kibbutz, an ultra Orthodox kibbutz. And that is like how far you have to go. So there are extreme things that are basically outside the observed range that would accomplish these things with at least reasonable success rates. But the kind of stuff that parents usually do is just not big enough, especially for the long run. Just to talk about like that intelligence one, so we do have very good evidence that if you get adopted by a very high IQ family, you get adopted by some professors, and we test your IQ at 10, on average, your IQ will be elevated by being with that family. But here's the problem: come back at 20 and test that kid again, and he will be back down to where he would have been if he was brought up in a family of ordinary intelligence. And
Well,
again, what's going on there? What's going on is that environmental effects usually fade out. They don't compound and last forever. Like if you've ever tried teaching someone this, someone anything, you know how this works. It's like, okay, you teach them the Pythagorean theorem, great. Come back a year later, okay, kid, tell me the Pythagorean theorem. We did 100 problems a year ago. It's like, yeah, I don't remember that. Okay, so that is the normal experience that everyone who's ever taught anyone has. Is the sheer horror of, gee, like it doesn't stick. You have to just kill yourself to get anyone to learn anything. And that is really the story of parenting writ large. You do have to go quite crazy in order to have lasting influence. And I mean, a lot of what's going on, honestly, is that people are doing things where they like take their kid to French lessons twice a week for 2 years. And it's like, you know how much French that's actually going to lead them to know in adulthood? Like they're going to know we and no, right? And yet you went and
but can
stressed
they? But
yourself
can they?
out and
Or
stressed the kid out for 2 years. So what really was the point?
yeah, or can they order at a French restaurant in
Yes,
French?
yes.
That's I mean.
S'il vous plaît, le hamburger. Wow.
It's just parenthetically, we just got back from France. My wife is actually pretty good. She speaks pretty good French, but every time she said anything in French to anybody over there, they answered in perfect English,
Mm,
which is problematic because
yep.
everyone
Yep.
in the world seems to know English. But anyway, I guess, what can I say about
I
that?
mean, actually,
Um,
like, let's thank our lucky stars. The whole world revolves around Anglophone tourists.
it kind of does. It really does, for better or for worse. So you're saying that the some of the convolutions we tie ourselves up like a pretzel, trying to make our to give our children the most wonderful advantages
Mhm.
and guide them along this journey of life. A lot of it is for naught. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Right. And again, of course, that's the negative way of putting it. Another way of putting it is things are going to work out fine, so don't worry. Right. Those
Yeah.
are just two different perspectives on the same situation. But just to understand how strong these results are, almost everyone thinks that growing up in a rich family will cause you to be richer somehow. whether it's you pick up the right values from them about saving money and hard work or achievement, or maybe you actually get family connections. There is a amazing study that I talk about of Korean war orphans that got adopted in mostly the 1960s in the US. And they got sent to a wide range of incomes with American families. So some were sent to families just a bit above the poverty line. Others were sent to much wealthier families. And then the researchers came and looked at those kids when they were in around 30. They found out that the average income of those Korean war orphans adopted by the very richest families equaled the income of the ones adopted by the very poorest families. Like, it was just not true that there is a big effect of, or even a noticeable effect of getting adopted by a richer or poorer family. And if you're like, how can that possibly be? It's like, well, the answer has to be that success actually is being transmitted genetically through a lot of different results. So could be through intelligence, could be through personality. I mean, of course, these are long run results. So it's like, well, yeah, your dad can get you a good first job, but if you suck, people aren't going to keep giving you good jobs because they like your dad.
So true. Very, very true. Okay, I'm curious about this book, Selfish Reasons to Have More Children, More Kids. Give us some of the selfish reasons.
Mm,
Why
mm,
should we listen? I've kind
mm,
of backed into having a big family.
mhm.
I mean, I'm crazy about my kids, and even though now they're all grown up, they're adults, but we are crazy about our kids. But
Have you got grandkids,
tell
Dr.
us,
Bob?
I'm sorry,
Have you got grandkids, Dr. Bob?
I got 13 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's what happens when you start having kids at 22. Wow.
you're right.
I screwed
And
up, man.
yeah, it's actually it's pretty epic actually. So that and grandkids are a whole different dynamic, but and in fact they're a good reason to have kids, by the way.
Mhm,
And you've heard that before. But tell us your version.
mhm.
Why is it good to have kids?
All right. So notice the title is More Kids. I didn't want to go and harangue people who just say, I don't like kids at all. I wanted to go and talk to people that actually had some feelings of wanting to be a parent, but weren't sure that they wanted to prioritize those, or thought they might want to stop with only one or two kids. So again, the heart of the book comes back to all the arguments I'm making. Again, a lot of people have trouble making a connection, but let me try to just walk through it. All right. So the motivation behind this helicopter parenting, this high intensity parenting, is this idea that I am the crucial factor for my kids having a good future. I am suffering. I am paying tons of time and money and losing sleep and stressing myself out in order to go and help my kids. I say that the actual evidence is that those parents are wrong. It is false to believe that you are the crucial ingredient. So the first obvious step is stop doing stuff that is unpleasant in order to go and help your kids because it's not working. But then I say, look, that's only step one. Step two is, well, wait a second. If I don't need to do all this unpleasant stuff to be a good parent and to have my kids turn out well, then maybe I should rethink the number of kids that I want to have. So around the time my book came out, there was an essay by a mom on the theme of soccer as contraception. And the piece just said, look, we got two kids right now. They're both in soccer. Taking these kids to these soccer games and practices is killing us. And then we were talking about having a third kid, and we were interested, but then we realized, wait, three kids means three sets of soccer practices. That would even more kill us. We're not. And so she said, yeah, so we don't want to do that. And I'd say, look, I'm just reversing the reasoning. Since you are wrong to think that you need to have your kids go to a bunch of soccer practices to be a good parent and to give them a good future, then you are wrong to think that you'd be a bad parent to not do it. And then the effective cost of having that third kid is just a lot lower. So, and in both time and money, of course.
Yeah.
So, that's the big the heart of the argument is the theory behind helicopter parenting is wrong. So the idea that once you are that you've got to be a helicopter parenting, but then have a helicopter parent, but then having kids is just terrible for you. That's wrong too. So I basically say first wipe out all the needless pain and suffering, and then rethink how many kids you want to have. So I think about my book as being like a coupon for kids. Kids 25% off, right? And if you give that coupon, it's like here's a coupon for 25% off chocolate. If the person says, I don't like chocolate, I'm allergic to chocolate, chocolate will kill me. It's like, all right, fine. Throw the coupon away. But on the other hand, if it's a normal person who said, yeah, I like chocolate, all right, well, first of all, here you can save some money. Second of all, maybe you want to buy another box. that is the way I'm thinking about the evidence, and that's the way I present it. And that why is, by the way, why an economist wrote this book. There's a lot of people who knew these results, but I think I'm the only one that said this has implications for family size. And that's what I'm heavily pushing.
Yeah, no, I can completely agree. And by the way, as you move through a family, and you know this to be true with four
Mhm,
kids, me too, it actually is a little bit cheaper to have each kid. I mean,
mhm,
because
yeah.
first of all, you could also kind of impress your kids into service, your older kids, and then
Yeah,
you kind of look,
totally.
you
A
guys
lot of
babysit
kids like being a good older sibling. There's some bad
they
ones out
do.
there,
And so,
but
the older
a lot of
kids,
kids like it.
a lot of our kids, there are times when my wife and I went out to dinner, we never hired a babysitter because we had
Mm,
babysitters who lived in our house, and we said,
yep,
"Look, we're going to go out to dinner, watch the younger kids,"
yep.
and that was how we did it.
Mm.
Okay,
So
and
do
so
you
we
have no date nights until your older kids were old enough to be babysitters?
no, 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 no. We
It wasn't
also
that
had the
bad.
blessing of
All
a
right. So I
mother-in-law.
know there's a lot of parents who are like that, and I was like, have your parents watch them, get a babysitter. It's fine.
No, we did have my mother-in-law was intimately, incredibly involved with the raising of our children. I have to give my mother-in-law a lot of praise because I think that she helped us have a bigger family, frankly,
Yeah.
because she kind of took a little of the pressure off. One thing, we're human beings. We have a tendency to look over our shoulder, look over the fence, and
Mhm,
see what the neighbor's
mhm,
doing. The neighbor's doing all these things. They're taking their kids to French lessons and whatever they are, music lessons, and we tend to kind of go, "Oh, they're doing that. We should do that too."
mhm.
How do you fight that
Hmm.
tendency?
I'll just say that I'm an instinctive nonconformist. I've always been this way. I actually have a whole book on nonconformism. It is one of the most important gifts you can give yourself to stop worrying about what other people think. It's one thing if they actually can do something for you, like yeah, you should worry about what your boss thinks, what your coworkers think, worry about what your mother-in-law thinks, but what some neighbors that you barely interact with think, forget that. That's so ridiculous. Just again, you may say like that's easy to say but hard to do, and that's where I say fine, baby step it. Like every day, do one thing your neighbors wouldn't approve of that you think is a good idea, and see, wow, the skies did not fall. Nothing happened. In fact, probably nobody even noticed because most people I say are so overwhelmed with their own overparenting, they really don't have much time to pay attention to you. Right. So I think that's the reality is a lot of what people think of as social pressure is really just your own inner monologue and your delusion that the whole world is paying attention to you. And like there's this great saying, and we'd worry a lot less about what other people thought about us if we realize how little they think about us at all. Very true and liberating words.
Yeah, no, I think you're out as I age, um, Brian, I am becoming a little less concerned about what other people think of me about me. But I have to
And by
say,
the way, Bob, I mean, I think a lot of the reason why people choose the number of kids they have is out of conformity. During the baby boom, why are people having four kids? I think a lot of it is other people are doing it.
yeah,
What about now? Why are you only having no kids or one kid? Because that's what other people are doing. When my wife was pregnant with our fourth kid, she was actually telling me, "Oh, people are going to look at us like we're like that hillbilly on The Simpsons with 14 kids. Like they're going to look at us like we're stupid, like we're backwards." And my reaction is, first of all, they won't, and second of all, who cares?
yeah, no, I agree, and I think that it is now. I will tell you that most people, when we tell them that we have this many kids, look at us and kind of go. They say, "God bless you," for they're happy for us, and
Yeah. Well, it sounds
I
like
never
you hang
really,
around better people than I do.
yeah, no, well, I mean, there are
As a
also
professor,
people,
you hang around some very negative people. I try to avoid them, but they're out there, not
yeah,
too
well,
far.
they show up
Stone's
in
throw from
grocery
my window.
stores. Yeah, they show up in grocery stores and they ask us, "Well, don't you know about your carbon footprint?" And I gotta go, I actually don't think about my carbon footprint that much. And we're having, and then I respond, I say, "We're having a couple of your kids for you." And that usually quiets him down a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so, so other than, okay, so you're saying more children.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a good point. I like that. But you're talking about, having, what are the blessings of having more children? What do more children bring to you?
Right. So here, I mean, my view is not profound. That's why the title says more kids. So if you were to say like, what's so great about having kids, I would say, well, like, first of all, like this is a great like a little buddy, a little friend, someone that you can go and teach about the world and experience new things through their eyes or experience old things through their eyes. There are so many things that I enjoyed as a kid that I haven't done, and then I said I can take my kid back and I can experience it anew through their eyes.
Yeah,
Like I recently, when I was a kid, we basically our vacations were always national parks in California. Hadn't done it in 40 years. Then I took my sons to Yosemite and Sequoia, and like, wow. First of all, this is better than I remember, and second of all, I wouldn't be that much fun to come back by myself. It's because I can go with my kids and say, let's see it together, that it's so
yeah,
much fun. I mean, I have
yeah,
so like, and I admit from like, I freely admit that being a parent means a lot more to me than to most adults because I basically am a big kid. A lot of people say, Bryan, you're really just so childish at heart. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. I love playing games and comic books. I like things that adults like wine and cheese parties. I would just consider terrible, and I just want to leave. I hate this. And I just honestly, I just think kids have better personalities than adults. I have a piece just saying I just rather I prefer to talk to kids than to adults because adults are really boring usually. And so I like kids more like they're just honest. I'd rather talk to an honest person. It's like, so how was school? And it's like, yeah, really boring. Like, yeah, I get that. Tell me who your most boring teacher is and why. And pretty soon I'm having a fun conversation. Whereas adults, they're so self-censoring. Ugh. All right. So that's something else I would talk about. Uh, so we like, but again, like your mileage will vary, and I know other parents who get different things out of their kids. So some parents like dressing their kids. Like to me, it's not that fun to go and pick out clothes for my kids. Although I do always splurge on Halloween costumes, which I consider super fun, and it's my chance to recover from the childhood drama of my mom always limiting the price of Halloween costumes to like $3 a kid. And I'm like, sky's the limit. Let's get the $100 costume. This is so awesome. We can all have great costumes. Um, and on that theme is another thing that's great about being a dad is, like if I just was a single guy dressing up like the State Bus Marshall Man and trying to trick or treat on Halloween, people would be freaked out. But I do it with my kids, and everyone says, "Wow, you're such a great father." It's like, yeah, I sure am. Yeah.
yeah. So you would be kind of odd to go being. So you trick or treat as well. Do you get the candy? Do you?
Yeah, I just give it to the kids. But yeah, like I mean, for me, it's the fun of dressing up in costumes and going around the neighborhood and meeting people that you don't normally see. That's what I really like. But the candy I can buy. I'm an adult. I got all the money for candy I would ever need. But the wearing costumes and seeing everybody in their costumes, I love that. It's my favorite holiday. Christmas as an adult, it's like, well, I can just buy all this stuff for myself. I don't need it. But Halloween, it's like, what? I could be really rich and I still couldn't pay everybody to run around in costumes. That's fun.
You are a kid. I like this. You
Yeah,
are a
yes,
kid at
it's
heart.
true.
This
And
is
so that's why I always want to distinguish like what is the actual evidence that I have that's relevant to other people and what's me personally. And I'll say, yeah, like both things are going on. I don't deny it.
yeah. One of the things I say about having lots of kids is this, is that every kid is a precious entity. And
Hmm.
they also they introduce you to an infinity, a whole new world,
Hmm.
a whole new
Yes, yes.
universe.
Yep.
And because of what we alluded to before, this difference in personality, I mean, first of all, my kids, let me give you an example. My kids are readers. They read books. They're very
Hmm.
big readers. We
Six for
were
six. You got six readers?
Kinda, yeah, we really
All
do,
right.
and
Good for
and
you.
partly because of what we tried to do, we turned the television off.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I mean, that you would probably disagree with
Well,
that.
I'd say that's probably extreme enough that maybe you'll get some mileage out of that. It could be I would say it's kind of hard if if there's a kid that doesn't like reading, but if you can make that stick, great.
It kinda did. I mean, I'm not we
Yes.
we did keep the television on. We had limited television, put it that way.
Yes.
So all of our kids are readers, so they read different books, and they tell us about different books, and then they give me books, and so there's a lot of, interface about books. Our
Hmm.
kids are travelers, they love to travel. I mean,
Hmm.
they're all over the place. I mean, I can't keep track of them all, to be honest with you,
Hmm.
where they're at because they travel a lot. So, but we learn about the world through their
Mhm.
through their
Yep.
experiences out there in the world. My kids were athletic. I mean, I learned about girls volleyball, Bryan. I didn't know that there
Mhm.
was a thing like girls volleyball. Do you know that girls volleyball is gigantic? It is like
I think I knew
they're
that actually. I mean, like, but yeah,
okay. Well,
I get the idea.
you're a professor. You know things that you would know everything. But anyway, I didn't know that.
No, no.
So there are on the weekends, there are gyms in Southern California which are gigantic. They're like warehouses that are filled with young girls playing volleyball.
Mhm.
It's incredible. It's a industry, honestly. I didn't know about that. And so much of my life has been enriched by having kids and their experiences. That I have a kid who lives in New York City. Well, I don't really know much about New York City, but I'm getting to know about New York City
Mhm.
because I have a daughter
Yep.
who lives there. So we go visit her, and
Mhm.
she shows us all the cool places and the museums and all this
Mhm.
kind of stuff, which we never would have done.
Yeah,
So our
absolutely.
lives have been so enriched by having kids is hard to explain, honestly. And listen, I love the idea of having more children. You're right. People who do not want to have children, okay, God bless you.
Mhm.
Good luck on Halloween, I guess you'd say, right?
You got to
But
shut off all your lights and hide in your basement. What a life.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Don't
Have
no,
fun in the
yep,
dark.
yeah, don't our home is dark. But anyway, it really has certainly in my life. Kids have brought into my life. One last thing. I mean, I could talk to you all day, Bryan, because I like your approach to life. Um,
Oh, I feel the
so
same way, Dr. Bob.
well, thank you. One last thing. Okay, and this is important. You're an economist. You understand demographics.
Mhm.
Um, Tell us a little bit about that aspect of children, because there are countries in the world. You've alluded to Korea. They did give away a lot of their babies after World War II. You know that. Now
Mhm.
they have no babies, and you're well aware of that.
Mhm.
Singapore, their fertility rate is less than one. You know
Mhm.
that as
Yep.
well. So can you speak a little bit to the demographics and why kids are important in terms of economy?
Great question. All right. So if people have fewer than approximately two kids, then over the long run, your population is going to shrink. And if you get your total fertility rate, the average number of kids per woman down to one, then every generation your population is having, ignoring immigration. Right. So immigration is already saving the US from population decline, but other countries without many immigrants, their populations are already going down. This is the kind of thing that's very hard to reverse because once a generation is 40 and they've only had one kid per woman, well, that's basically the end. They're not going to have any more kids, with very rare exceptions. So it's the kind of thing where it's like a slow motion thing where it's like, okay, we're not seeing the decline quite yet, and life expectancy is still rising, but it's coming. There can be no doubt about it. In terms of what the effects are, um, out of people that are concerned about this issue, one view is just this is going to be an absolute disaster. My view is actually not as extreme. My view is just that it's going to be a giant disappointment, a giant missed opportunity. So I don't think that Korea's population having every generation will mean that South Korea collapses. I don't think they're going to starve to death. What I think it means is that there's a lot of people that would have enjoyed life. There's a lot of progress, a lot of new ideas that won't happen. It's a tragedy not only for the people that don't get to be born and for the people in Korea, it's a tragedy for all the people around the world who love K dramas and K horror and K pop because the next generation is just going to have a lot fewer creators. And so we're going to get a lot less output out of them. I think it has to get quite extreme before you would actually see that we go backwards because normally ideas, once they are discovered, they stay around unless things get really severe. So I think that it's really bad compared to what could have been that birth rates are so low. But I don't think the sky will fall. I think it's just that the sky should have risen and it won't.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it a little bit from an economic perspective too. I think that children drive economies.
Mhm.
They really do. I mean, you're at a point in your life where I mean, put it this way. I'm at a point in my life where am I going to buy a minivan? No, I'm not going to buy a minivan. Am I going to go
Yeah.
out and build a new house for my family to live in? Well, my family is out. I mean, they have their own
Mhm.
houses, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not
Mhm.
going to. I mean, when you're old,
Mhm.
when people are older,
Mhm.
what do they spend money on?
Right.
Brian, you're the economist.
Right. Well, the optimistic scenario is they have some fantastic hobbies, so they're traveling the world. The more realistic scenario for most people is they're spending it on elder care and healthcare and that kind of thing. What I would say is that the real economic issues, first of all, like, it is really bad for pension systems. So, especially when you've got government pension systems, if the population is growing rapidly, then you can have low taxes and big benefits, and that works. If the population is falling, it's the opposite, where you'd have to have really high taxes and really low benefits. But even without government pension systems, if everybody stops having kids, who will do the job of assisted living? Who will actually go and be the nurses? You can get
Yeah.
immigrants, you can have robots. The robots were not there yet, and maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. So put that all together, and it's pretty bleak in terms of what it's like to be elderly in a society where young people didn't have kids 20 years earlier.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly right. Well, they're actually doing a lot of robotic work in Japan. You know that they are getting into robots for elderly care.
It's the kind of thing
You're
where
right.
people are always saying they're getting into it, but when you really look around, it's like, well, what exactly are they doing so far? And a lot
Yeah,
of it's like, well, in 5, 10 years, trust me. It's like, 5 or 10 years ago, you asked me to trust you, and you're wrong. So
yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it. When I was, I so like I was just in Japan for 3 weeks. I didn't see any new robots. Like the one time there was once a robot that was delivered my food. So all right, that's something. I saw that with my own eyes. And then I did see a robotic dog in Dubai. All right. So I was like, all right, there's a robot dog. All right, it's doing some dog like stuff. But yeah, that's all I've ever seen with my own eyes. So believe it when I see it. It's going to come
Okay.
eventually, but eventually is often so far in the future doesn't make any difference for me.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I have to get out a little bit more. I haven't actually seen robots. There is a robot in the hospital that delivers things to the different floors in the
Mhm.
hospital, which
Yeah,
is kind of
yeah,
interesting. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. It's
um,
progress, but it's slow, right?
yeah,
It's
I'm
not. We're
sure
not living in the world of the Jetsons. Not
okay,
even
we'll see
close.
what Elon Musk can do. He's working on that too.
Yeah.
Last question for you. You did make a comment that you don't have kids just so they'll take care of you when you're elderly.
Hmm.
You made that comment.
Hmm.
Uh, is that really true? I mean, I know that we took care
Hmm.
of my mother. I took care of
Hmm.
my mother-in-law until they passed. Um, the kids did. And so, is that not a reasonable thought?
It's reasonable as a marginal factor. If you don't like kids, then I'd say you're better off just hiring someone to take care of you. And if you say, well, my kids will love me, but the caretakers won't, it's like, well, maybe they'll love you. Maybe they'll live in another city and be too busy. Whereas money's money. This is just, again, a basic economic point of if all that you wanted was someone to take care of you when you're old, would you be better off going and saving a pile of money so you could hire top quality care, or going and creating a new baby in the hopes that they will stick around to do stuff for you? And I'll say, if that's the story, then yeah, you're better off just saving your money. It's still reasonable to think that this is an extra benefit of having kids. So yeah, in my book, I did talk about how one of the best predictors of whether you're in assisted living is the number of kids you have. More kids equals less likely to be in assisted living. Okay, so that
Yeah.
is a good thing. But even so, I would say that if you just didn't like kids, that wouldn't be enough to reasonably sway you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit of extra weight on the scale, but is not, by itself wouldn't be enough for it to make sense.
I don't think that most people who are in the age category they're having children are thinking those kind of thoughts.
Yes, right.
I have to tell you, I
Also,
don't.
also true. And people say,
Yeah.
well, in earlier times it was different. Yeah, in earlier times people died before they retired, so that was the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. Well, listen, Brian, I promised you to finish up in an hour, and I have to be true to my word. You have been a phenomenal guest. People who are listening out there, I think you all agree. Dr. Kaplan's very special. He is a New York Times bestseller. He wrote a book about open borders. I have to read that book. Borders are a big deal here in California, and
I
so
noticed.
I'll get that book, Brian, and take a look at it. But Thank you for taking your precious time during the summer months to come
Yeah,
on my
actually, Dr.
show.
Bob, can I make a request on that Open Borders?
Sure.
It is actually a graphic novel. Kids as young as 5 have read it and enjoyed it, even though it's also written for researchers to be able to read it. How about you buy 10 copies of it for your office and just leave them around? Would you do that for me?
I will do that. I will do that.
All right.
I will
I
go
might
on.
pop in Santa Monica and see whether the copies are still there.
Okay. Well,
So
I
there's a
will
lot of
get.
kids have read my book, and I think, and it's one like it's beautifully illustrated, and it's one where I think it is my most persuasive book I've ever written.
Is that
If
right?
you read that book and just say, yeah, like you're crazy, I'm like, well, I failed because that's the best I can do.
Okay. The book's called Open Borders, you
Yep.
guys, and now I know why it's a New York Times bestseller, because you make all the people you talk to buy 10 copies. So no wonder it's a
Well,
bestseller.
I don't think I've ever been interviewed by a pediatrician before. So,
Well,
I
here we
mean,
go. This
yeah,
is
I mean,
I'm
what have you got in your office? You got Highlights magazine? Do they still do that?
we do. Yes, we do.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
listen.
I think my book is way better than Highlights.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll buy 10 copies
All
and
right.
we'll take a look at
All
it.
right.
Okay,
Awesome.
I don't.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you.
kind of drop it around the office.
Okay.
Listen,
Super.
Bryan, you were a delight, Dr. Caplan. Thank you for taking the time. Friends, thank you for being here. By the way, his book is called "Selfish Reasons to Have More Children." You can get
More
it, I
kids. More
presume, on
kids.
and more kids, and it is on Amazon, right? Available
That
on
is correct.
Amazon.
All my books on Amazon. I've got over 10 books.
Okay, beautiful. Dr. Kaplan, thank you. Enjoy your summer.
Roger that. Likewise.
Okay.
All right.
Friends, thank you for tuning in to the Hamilton Review. Until next time, be well. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your day. Tune in again next week on Apple Podcast. Rate and comment and tell a friend.